We'll wait a couple more minutes and then we'll get started. I know the village board members had a board review that they have to stay until 6 o'clock, so they'll be rolling in here a few more minutes, but we don't have to wait for them. So I'm going to kick this off and welcome everybody. I appreciate you spending some time with us to provide your input relative to Marble Park and what you feel that the village and the area needs from a park facility standpoint. My name is John Broderick, and I'm here for two reasons. One, I'm a member of the park board for the village, so we'll be kind of making the recommendations to the village board as to what we want to do going forward. And secondly, I'm president of the Winnie County Area Community Foundation, and with the foundation, we are planning to spearhead the fundraising once we get the master plan, and we want to execute that plan. So I think it's important also to note that everybody probably knows this, but I'd like to reinforce it, that we were able to fund this master plan through funds that came from ARPA, or the American Rescue Plan Act. And that was done by the county. So thanks to Doug Nelson and the team there that represents us, we were able to get the funding to hire our consultant, Rutler. So Rutler has lots of experience in doing these types of parks. John Kinnear, who's the president of Rutler, will kind of be walking us through the background of Marble Park and some of the constraints that he's got to work with, right? So we have to worry about where are the facility, or where are the utilities? Do we have swampy areas or flood areas? What about the ground? I remember as a kid, part of the park was actually a dump. So we have to make sure that we have to deal with all those constraints as we look at what options that we may have for the park. Our intention for this project is it to be funded as a public-private collaboration. So what does that mean? So from a private side, I'm looking for support financially from not only members of the village, but also members of the community that supports the school district. I think a lot of the people that are employed in this area or have kids, everybody uses the park. So that's a big part of it. And from a public standpoint, we're also looking to get funds via grants and looking for things from the state or ARPA or other types of opportunities. So tonight, what the intention would be is we've got some microphones set up. So there's two down here and there's two back there. Once John kind of walks through all the different things that he's going to discuss relative to Marble Park, what we'd like to do is have you come up and provide that feedback to us. We're also at the end of this going to be launching an online survey. So the survey will be available for people to provide their input. Once that information is captured, Rutler is going to combine and consolidate that, organize it, and they're going to start coming up with some conceptual plans that we can have maybe 3 different or 4 different concepts that we want to address and take a look at. So in another couple of months, 2 to 3 months, we'd like to have another one of these input meetings where you'll be able to see, here's 3 or 4 different concepts. What do you like? What don't you like? Maybe I like this part of this one. I'd like to move it into that one. Some of those kinds of things that we'll be doing in the future. Ultimately, the park board will make a recommendation to the village board, and the village board will go forward and approve it, and then we'll get working on it. So dream big tonight. Give us your big ideas. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to John Kinnear, who's the president of Rutler Corporation.
All right, thank you, John, for the introduction and a review of the process. So first of all, thanks to you all for taking some time out of your busy evening to come here and help us with this master planning process. As John mentioned, we have not begun the design process yet. We're going to do that after we talk to you. Most importantly, we want to reach out to the community in this format Also, as John mentioned, there's going to be an online survey. That's very important. There's a lot of opportunity to give feedback, answer some questions about the park, about what you'd like to see. As we go through the presentation tonight, keep that in mind. I'm sure some of you have ideas of what you'd like, what you want to see changed. You know, dream big too. I think that's one of the big elements that we want you to look at, whether it's from an athletics perspective, community use perspective, passive leisure, trails, you know, whatever it is that you like best about the park, what you want to see is what's important to us this evening. So ultimately, after the presentation, we'll open up the mics. Please share your thoughts. If you're not comfortable doing that again, please take the survey. Let people know about the survey too. That's one of the best ways we can get data out there. There's a survey link and a QR code at the entry. If you want to photograph that or obtain copies, those will also be posted on the social media site as well. So please spread the word. Word of mouth is going to be one of the best ways to get this out there. We'll look at the park itself, its existing conditions, opportunities, and constraints. A lot of the natural features that John was mentioning. We'll look at what's in the park right now, and then what I'd like to do is show you a few ideas too of what's happening in park and recreation design, a few recent projects that we have with some elements to consider: splash pads, athletic facilities, amphitheaters, public gathering spaces, development on former landfills. We have a nice project example of that. It's not impossible. So we'll show you all those possibilities and then open it up for discussion. So Marble Park, of course, location-wise, we're just on the west end of town here, and have Main Street to the north. It's off of Cleveland Street. There's also access here from the south off of Grant. And I'll grab my laser pointer here so you can see where I'm talking about. Off Grant, there's a small parking lot there as well. The park itself is bound by the water feature to the west and south, and then a wetland area beyond that. There's also the park property that it is linked to the south by trail as well. So again, there's several points of access for this park site, which is great. The residential area to the south and west has fairly direct access to the park. From a pedestrian standpoint, vehicular access is mainly concentrated off Cleveland, and we can get into more detail in a little bit as to exactly what's in the park. To look at some of the natural resources, there's a few things to keep in mind as we do look to come up with conceptual planning. Some of that is wetlands. The information that we do have shows there's some wetland indicator soils. So really what that means is it's soils that can support wetlands. We'd have to get a delineation done, but this little purple area here, this little purple area here and here really would need to get investigated. Again, not impossible for us to dream big and to look at that. And then the waterways is identified by the DNR as well. The swimming pond is a waterway at this point in time, as identified by the Wisconsin DNR. Floodplain, there is quite a bit of floodplain on the site, so what that means is we'll just have to be cognizant of what we're taking out and what we're putting back. This isn't floodway, that would be the waterway, rivers, anything where there's flood elevation in the floodway. This is flood fringe area. We just have to be cognizant for filling and for constructing in those areas. Again, it's a permitting process, but we want to be able to identify that for you as we look to come up with ideas here in the park. From a use standpoint, our main vehicular access is here off Cleveland, into the park to the main central lot. That's kind of our high point spine. If you look back at at the floodway map, the FEMA map, you can kind of see that's our main spine here, this high point connection from the museum back to the parking lot, and then the site falls away to the waterway. There, obviously our low point is the swimming pond itself on the park. Otherwise, we're pretty flat, very flat in that area. Pedestrian access, there's a walkway around and throughout the park, and then the pedestrian bridge across the waterway, again, as I mentioned, connecting the southwest part of the village to Marble Park. And Main Street access as well through Grant. So that's really the site in general. One main way for vehicular traffic is central lot. Not a lot of vehicular circulation throughout. That opens up the site for use and pedestrian use, active uses. So a very good canvas to work on as we look at design. What's in the park? Here from the top, we've got the museum, the historical museum here. We've got some play equipment to the north. Sorry, my eyes aren't what they used to be for my presentation here. We've got the pond and beach area here with the bathhouse. We've got our sand volleyball courts here, the community building, really the open shelter area and preparation area, softball field, basketball court, a storage building there, the baseball field, batting cages, the main central lot here, the two youth ball fields here, our secondary small parking lot and shelter restroom building south of that. Moving south to the pedestrian bridge on this side, there's an existing archery range and dog park here. There's also a small, I guess, parking area there. It is not quite defined parking, but it is 3 or 4 cars worth of parking there on that south axis in the dog park. It does cross the trail too, so there is a little bit of pedestrian and vehicular conflict there, but it is nice to have that direct access to the dog park area. And then the trail system throughout the park, that's a stone trail system. And then here, the aerial precedes it, but that's where the new pickleball courts are up at the top. So we'll go back to this slide when we get into ideas if you want to refer to that. And then again, as I mentioned, when we think about this, I want to show you a few images now of some park projects that we've recently completed, from design through construction, starting with a process like this. The first example here is Swan Park in Wapaka. This was a splash pad and accessible playground redevelopment of a former playground space that was here in a pavilion. So we kept the pavilion, removed the playground here, and opened up the site to house a multi-age and every level adaptive playground space. This is an ADA accessible playground. 90% or so of the elements are accessible. In-ground merry-go-rounds, platform interactive games at each level, soft surface play area, and then a splash pad here in a building to support that with restrooms, changing area, to add to the sports complex that they have. It's been open now for its 2nd year, and the South Park Beach on Shadow Lake, similar setup with outdoor swimming, was really the only aquatic activity short of driving up to the pool in Iola. So this really gave the community another option and is heavily used now as an option for folks in the community. That was recently completed. This next project is JC Park in Oregon, Wisconsin. We just finished phase 1 last summer of that, beginning phase 2 now. Looking at modern pinwheel arrangement for baseball, softball, central utilities and amenity space, bathrooms, concessions, service area, changing rooms for umpires, etc., storage central to that, pickleball, parking, similar stormwater management arrangements here. So, just looking at the arrangement of the fields, how it interacts with other open field space, how things are connected to parking to keep in mind as you're looking with input tonight. Maslowski Park, this is down in the city of Glendale. This is the landfill redevelopment. So this whole area here is a former closed landfill. There's a lot you can do with proper permitting, with proper research, proper foundation footing design. But this has multi-sport natural field, 2 synthetic baseball, softball fields in partnership with Nicolay High School and MSOE College. The building here serves for an athletics building, locker rooms, team rooms, but does have a large community room that opens up to an amphitheater. Their summer concert series is held here every weekend. There's a service area for food and drinks there too, and then a tiered amphitheater seating area off of that. So really multi-use, multifunctional utility there. Universal playground, Veterans Memorial, parking area beyond that to function for the park itself. More locally here and larger park planning example of Plowman Park. I wanted to show this because we do have a swimming pond there as well. This was about a $22 million all-in master plan that we developed for Outagamie County in 2020. That's been utilized. What I want to show here is these plans are feasible. Everything doesn't have to happen at once, so again, dreaming big is the key. Let's get everything on this plan that we want to have for our community, and then go from there and figure out how we can logically phase this together to implement the park plan in priority order. So this plan had 7 different phases. They began with their new park community building, beautiful new building, new roadways, new athletics. So really that master plan was the roadmap to the future based on a cost estimate that was then prioritized and phased out. They're following that. One of the challenges there was to look at the pond and the revenue generation versus maintenance and upkeep, and what to do there to continue to utilize that. So in this instance, the pond was part of the plan that was going to stay. It did get heavy use. There are pools nearby in the city of Appleton, so they do have 2 public pools and then high schools as well. So aquatics are available, readily available there. So something different was a natural, more natural pond. We are working with Village of Kewaskum right now. They are eliminating their pond due to cost and going with more of a larger splash pad area. We did go through an exercise of cost versus use. Their access to aquatic facilities is quite limited, so this really opened up access to them. So in Kewaskum, we looked at a different direction there. And then we did do the design and planning for the swimming pond in Schwabemay Park in Schwabenheim as well. So we'll be revisiting that part soon with them as well. So all things to consider, and looking for feedback on that to see what you all think about that. And then as we open this up then to public comment, we'll take your comments here in order. If you could raise your hand, I'll have you come up to the mic and then take your brief response. That would be great. And then again, we'll have the QR code and the website to take the online survey. But really what we want to have you focus on, any comment is welcome about the park, its improvements, but first, what works well in Arthur Marble Park in its current state? What do you like about it? What do you want to keep, preserve, enhance? What's working for you? Otherwise, if the answer is nothing or everything, that's great, but thinking about improvements, what are the top 3 amenities? It doesn't have to be 3, but in your mind, what are the top 3 amenities you'd most like to see improvements in Arthur Marble Park. And if it's not top 3 amenities, what is it? You know, more shade, more walking opportunities, more passive use. So any of those comments would be welcome. I will open it up now for public comment. We'll get the mics open here. And if anyone wants to be the brave first commenter, please raise your hand or just come on up to the mic too. That'd be great. Someone's got to have an idea. Thank you. Then I can take a drink, so thank you. Oh.
Check 1.
Oh, there you go.
All right. Jordan Dunham, 203 South First Ave. Hey, so I just want to say I think what we're doing is a great thing here for our community. I'm really looking to see this whole park like kind of wiped out and totally redesigned. I think we can see that there's a lot of good ideas out there. Speaking on like for YDC and our youth and our rec program, I think the way the ball diamonds are designed is not the best for everyone. There's not even bathrooms by them. So I'm really hoping we can see that done. I think personally that I like the swim pond, but I think it's too big for our community. So I'd like to see that maybe shrunken down a little bit. It'd be really great to get a splash pad in there. I think that's good for the little kids and obviously some more ADA accessible equipment. But I really would like to see this kind of just like a whole redesign of what the park space could actually be. The parking lot's always tough. I mean, it's always packed. It doesn't make for good access, you know, coming in and out. And there's always kids running through it. That's kind of unsafe. Even if you go back between like 12 and 7 there, you know, you got kids going back and forth between the ball diamonds and cars coming in. The other thing I'd really like to I think it'd be really cool is if we had a nice amphitheater there for festivals and stuff like that. So.
Thank you. Great start. Thank you.
All right.
Yeah.
Phoenix Wenzel, I'm on 320 North 7th Street. I'm going to talk for most of the moms / stay-at-home moms in town because actually I've talked to quite a few of them before John got the ball rolling with this. And I was going to try because a lot of the stay-at-home moms or moms in general that use these parks don't like anything or we don't have options or they're broken or whatever. So I know for me, I hate the sand. I absolutely cannot stand the sand. So I prefer to go to Armour's Pool over Winnacunny's pond with fish in it any day. So I would love to see a splash pad mixed in with like a pool so that we have something that the community can actually use that's clean and also not have to go to Armour all the time. And then another thing that I would really like to see would be like shade and more seating and a diaper changing area because there's nowhere to change except for on top of a picnic table, which I've done quite a few times. The basketball court I used to play on personally all the time when I was a kid, and now I think you trip in a giant hole if you try to make a basket. So it'd be cool to see better ones of those. I really liked the pinwheel that you had up there because I feel like it made sense in the order that it was. I feel like something like that we could utilize more space. And then I also have a dog, and having water access at the dog park would be really cool. That is pretty much all my ideas. Oh, and a soccer field, because my kid's into soccer now.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Here, I'll just move this.
Much taller than I am. Okay, I'm Laura Holbert, 110 North 2nd Street. I personally, we're a big baseball family, big sports family. I feel like sports are really up and coming in Winnacunny. I personally have visited the Swan Park, which I think was the very first one. And by far, hands down, that was an absolutely amazing facility. Having families that join, you know, smaller siblings that are there. If you've ever been to a baseball tournament, you know that it's an all-day, sometimes a whole weekend, sometimes 3-day event. And so being able to have a place for the younger ones to go, a place for, you know, to kind of cool off. It's 90 degrees out, you've been there all day. So that one is an absolute stunning facility. I agree that I feel like the pond is quite large, that we could better utilize that space. The splash pad, again, I feel like it's cleaner, like Phoenix had said. You know, you don't get bit by little crabs in the lake. So I would love to see that. And then same thing with the pinwheel. I've been to several facilities. We travel all over within an hour and a half, you know, from here. So we've been to many facilities. That is really nice, just to be able to have it one centralized location for the families and the kids to kind of go to. Because again, baseball, you're not on one field all day, you know, you're on multiple fields. So, and if you're a parent who's got multiple children who are playing baseball, you know, they can easily see, you know, several of the games, and they're trying to go back and forth. So I know that, again, it's up and coming for the baseball in this community. When my son started 4 years ago, we were barely able to make one 8U team. Now we have a 7U, a couple of 8Us, a couple of 9Us, a couple of 10Us, a couple of 11Us, you know, so we now have the rec team, teams that play. So I think that, you know, kind of honing in on that sports, but then also having another place to cool off for the younger kids would be ideal. So my ideas, thank you.
Great, thank you. All right.
My name is Christy Frank. I actually live in Larson. I'm the PTA president for Winneconne Elementary as well. So my ideas for sure would be for baseball as well. My son plays baseball and soccer. My daughter plays soccer. The only place we have to go is Oshkosh. So it'd be wonderful if we could get those funds to come to Winneconne rather than having to pay Oshkosh for having to go to use all their parks and things like that for soccer. Also playgrounds. I feel like our playgrounds need a lot of work, especially though there's like a little area by the youth diamonds that are terrible. I have a younger daughter who has hurt herself on that merry-go-round numerous times. The sandbox is disgusting. So I just feel like we really need a lot of help on the playground as well. And I also was at the Swan Park, which was amazing. Everything was right there together, the splash pad, the playground, how all of that just meshed together. You could see all of your kids playing on all the different things. I absolutely love that park. So.
Is that a pinwheel then?
It was.
Yeah, back here it's a 4-field pinwheel as well. Right.
It was awesome.
Right. And then that main drive, that main walkway connection goes back to a central restroom, concessions, changing room, storage area, and then another walkway out to an auxiliary parking lot. So when they have tournaments, it really piles up back here, but plenty of parking and access. Once you're into the site, it's all pedestrian from there. And that's the thing with baseball, it's 315 feet out back to home plate, but it's a bit of a walk. But again, having all that use together, that central amenity in the middle to serve all the fields really is efficient, and then you get away from repeating amenities, buildings, and things like that. So, yes, sir.
I'm Brian Miller at 26 North 4th Street. The president of Winneconne Youth Archery. We do a lot of stuff with kids as young as 3, 4 in the area here. One thing I want to make sure we keep at the park is that archery range. We've personally been working with some other groups trying to make plans on how to make some improvements to there. Got some donations a few years ago to replace the targets there, which really helped a lot, made them a lot safer, a lot more usable for people. I was just down there last week and checked those out, and they definitely have been getting used. But I've been in talks with groups on building berms to improve the safety, possibly getting shooting platforms, get some elevated shooting, some additional targets that are closer so the kids can use it while adults are using it. been talking to somebody who did the Rice Lake shooting range, which is a brand new, that they had a lot of problems with getting ordinances with that. We have a space right now where the ordinances are in place. All we need to do is a couple of improvements, and that's gonna start drawing people into the park for that.
Great.
I do know some grants, $30,000 matching grant from DNR that can help with that too.
That's fantastic. Yeah, if there are funding sources you're aware of too, especially on the online survey, if you want to share those too, then we can collect all that data, share that with our final document too, to show where those funding sources could come from that we don't know all of them. So if you're aware of that, that'd be great to share that with us too. Thank you.
I'm Holly Nelson. I live at 125 Washington Street, so I frequent this park every single day. So we didn't mention the one thing that's important to me, which is the trail. I mean, I'm on that every single day, so I would like to keep that. And I see a lot of people, frankly, a lot of people out there walking their dogs every day on the trail. As far as everything else, I think, obviously I like the pickleball course. We finally got some, so I don't want to lose those. And I think a lot of the ideas have been, look at the splash pad and the pinwheel. I mean, there seems like some really good ideas that would be fun. I don't remember, we talked about if the Historical Society is going to stay up there, because that is a nice amenity. And I think that's it. I look forward to it continuing to get developed. I think the splash pad would be wonderful. So I finally have grandchildren.
Congratulations. Thank you. Any other comments? Any other thoughts? This is great too. Thank you so far for everybody that has been sharing. Good thought process so far. Anybody else? Yes, please.
Hi, I'm Jessica Schaffman, 1128 Barbary Lane. We can walk to this park. My family actually moved to Winneconne a few years ago. I love the community. And we actually came from Oshkosh, and they have plentiful, wonderful parks. And it's the only downfall, and I'm so happy that this is up and running. So I just made a few notes. Things that I think are working. The dog park, I drive by there all the time. It's always busy. I think we need to keep the dog park. I'm also a semi-stay-at-home mom. I love the beach. So my kids love the beach. They love to play in the sand. I think it's important to keep that. I know it is kind of large. I don't think the whole water portion of it gets used, but it is very busy in the summer. Baseball, obviously, we need to keep baseball here, but I think it needs to be reconfigured so that it makes more sense, as some others have said. And then fishing, nobody's talked about fishing yet. There are always kids and adults and people fishing, and I think it's really important to keep, I don't know what you're calling this little, waterway for fishing. So whatever we have to do, I don't know anything about fishing, but it's important to keep the fishing there. A lot of neighborhood kids, I think, ride their bikes there. It's a safe space for them to be fishing in the park. I think that we need to have some updates. So I think that there needs to be some equipment near the baseball fields. However, we change it around some smaller play sets for siblings of baseball players. But then beyond that, and I know we kind of have that, but let's be honest, it's all broken and not working, and it's just not working for the community right now. But beyond that, I think we also need some larger playground equipment. I know you showed some beautiful photos, but I think it's important that it's all inclusive and it has ADA access. My youngest is actually in a wheelchair, so I would absolutely love for it to be even partially ADA access, because it's not now. Paved walking trails. The walking trails are so important. They get utilized all of the time. If they were paved, I think they would be utilized even more for people who are like on bicycles, walking, things of that nature. Restrooms could be updated and or added depending on how you reconfigure the park so it makes sense. Shelters, as well as, like I said, just kind of updating the layout for parking and access to the different sites in the baseball. Because when the baseball is happening, it's completely packed and parking is insane there. Thank you.
Thank you.
Emily Benedict, 1135 Poppy Lane. We're also in that neighborhood that's like a half a mile west of the park. We have children that are 17 and 20, so we're not parents of small children anymore, but certainly our kids did use the park a lot when they were younger. We went to the beach all the time, they played in baseball. I totally support having better equipment, playground equipment, accessible equipment, better fields, maybe that pinwheel thing would be a good idea. But I wanted to put my 2 cents in for being mindful of the wildlife that exist and live in the park. I run on those trails as much as I can. I'd love to see those trails be paved. The gravel just eats up your shoes like nothing. But you see so many geese and cranes and a bunch of just wildlife during the quiet times of the day over there, and I'd hate to see that disrupted, I guess. So I just wanted to put in that note. Also, I'd love an amphitheater. I think that would be really cool. Thanks.
Thank you. Yeah.
I pretty much tend to agree with everything everybody said. I'm glad that we're taking a good look at the entire park. I would hope that you also take a little more look at Coughlin Park, which is right across from it. There's a lot of land available there. As far as fishing, you can hardly fish in that channel anymore. The weed growth makes it almost impossible to get a bobber down. I think they're way better off fishing off from Coughlin Park, just my 2 cents worth. But I certainly wonder, as we're dreaming big, how does our community ever afford this? And I'm just curious, in any of those other parks, do they have user fees? I know the Ball Diamonds pay something. Winnie County's got 73 acres of park, and trying to getting all of those to work in a small community is tough. And appreciate that people come to use our parks, but I kind of wished we had a park district so that it could make things much easier for us to finance. So I don't know, do you just come up with a plan and then it's John's job to find all the money for it? I don't know that John can find all that money, so I'm just curious if user fees play any part in any of some of the parks.
Yeah, I can speak to that too. I did serve on the City of Wapaka Park Board for many years, over 15 years. And that same, smaller community, that same question has come up. I can share that with this village and with John, what other similar sized communities do, and just show you different scenarios that we can talk about at a board level. And share those ideas from other communities with you. We can pull, 5 or 7 different communities together and just their user fees, their town usership fees for surrounding townships, etc. There's several different ways to do that, to begin exploring that, and then user group fees, things like that. But there's many different ways to do it. There's not just one way, but we can share that with you and show you similar sized communities where that's been successful, absolutely.
I sometimes don't know if we're park rich or park poor.
Right.
I like to think we've got a lot of parks we're park rich, but.
Right. A lot of park resources here, yep.
Rachel Riff, I live at 550 Meadow Lane. I basically live here, it's like my third home for the most part. I run the facility at Marble Park, and I help run the rec program, so we have over 350 kids in the rec program this year, so there's a lot of families that are down there. We know that the place needs to be updated, so I'm not going to repeat all the things that have been said. But I guess for me, the biggest thing is making sure that it flows and it flows well. And I know that's all part of your job, but I feel like we dream big and we don't want to put so much in there that it's congested and it doesn't make sense. The amphitheater I think is awesome, but I also struggle with that because, you know, we don't use it a lot here. You know, like we've tried to bring in things, but when we think about things and festivities that we have here in town, we don't draw that kind of crowd in. But in hindsight, when we do have festivities in town, and we do try to bring things into Marble Park, it's like a hot mess. You know, like when you have the car show down there, they're like all over the place, they're in the grass, and they're like, it's like a hodgepodge of things. When Sovereign State is down there, you're kind of just finding places, and there's no hookups for the vendors to, you know, bring things in, so there's generators all over the place. They're trying to hook up to, you know, Marble Park at times, and that can't withstand the power and electricity that needs to come with it. So it's just a better flow, and I don't know if there's ever able to be parking along the sides of the streets instead of just plopping them all in the middle. You know, just thinking about better parking arrangements and the flow. I do like the pinwheel idea, but also being a baseball, softball family as well. Sometimes those middle parts can get really congested when you have all of these baseball families, all of these softball families in the one area, and we all leave our, you know, our gear in these areas, and then it just kind of gets really congested. So just thinking about those types of things when we are incorporating the new facilities in. Obviously, the playgrounds we know are terrible, but just making sure it flows nicely. So, and that it's used versatility-wise, where it can be used for 3 seasons at least, and not just 2.
Very good. Thank you. For the record, I'm not memorizing all these comments. My associate Kyla Stanchik is writing all this down. So, yeah. Anybody else? Comments, questions about the process? Anything? Go ahead.
Greg Kosick, and I live out on Mistletoe Lane, southwest of the park. I also have a daughter with special needs, so just putting a plug in again for adaptive playground equipment and having it in a central location. I definitely agree with Rachel. The flow of the park, there is no flow, it's hodgepodge and everything, so definitely agree with the comments that it needs to flow better, and I've said it before on other meetings too, parking lot right in the middle, dangerous for kids, so good luck, let's do it, let's find a way, right? Thank you.
Yes, thank you. Any other comments? We'll have more opportunity, as John mentioned, to present concepts to you. I think that'll be a lot of fun just to look at some of these ideas on paper, get your feedback on that. As we move forward from there too, we're going to develop a preferred concept, review that, and then formalize that more into the master plan process moving forward. One more opportunity. Any other comments, questions? And if not, we're going to be opening up our online survey this evening. We'll be open from tonight through June 7th, so you got time to do it. This QR code will be posted on social media. Which site would that be on?
It'll be on the Wayne County Area Community Foundation page and then shared on the village.
Yeah, we'll also get it
On the village website, school websites. There'll be a lot of public areas to find that. QR code's here tonight. The link to our SurveyMonkey survey is here as well. If you want to jot that down or take a photo of that, please do. There's also copies of it on the entry table. If you do want to snap a photo of it, please do that. Please take the survey. Again, please tell everybody about it too. The more input we get, the better. It just gives us better data, better feel, cross-section of the community, what you're thinking. This runs again through June 7th. couple months after that, we'll process all this data, we'll get our concepts rolling, we'll meet back here again, and generate some comments on the concept plans. So before we close, I'll see if there's any other comments or questions. Yes?
Could you address how some other parks have paid for this? I mean,
Oh,
they
gosh.
through and
Yeah, it's funding sources or, you know, phasing.
Common Park.
Yeah, so let me go back to that. Again, this is a huge county park in Outagamie County. We started off with this very same process, you know, what's working in Plowman Park? What do you want to see enhanced? The natural areas, you know, the native plant communities that were there, preservation enhancement. So we talked about all that. And looked at what fits where, of course, what flows properly, you know, to get traffic patterns completely redone. Central parking areas adjacent to their athletics, their new community building, having a break in the vehicular traffic so that the pedestrians had a separate path. A lot of them were running on the road, etc. So we had quite a bit of improvement laid out for this park: roadways, trails, athletic fields, buildings, natural enhancements, even some school, the Montessori School of Appleton Area School Districts is here too, so some partnerships with that. Developed an overall cost estimate, so that, like I said, that ended up being $22 million. You know, that's impossible. How are we going to do that? So then we looked at priority order of development for the county, for their partnerships. The Grand Chute Baseball, for example, there were other groups that wanted to contribute funds to it. Those partnerships we identified, could phase those up a little higher because funding sources were there. Ended up with a 7 or 14, depending on if you look at 1A, 1B, a multiple phase approach to this. And they're about halfway through. They're about halfway through their improvements here. Because of that phased approach, they can take that out to donors. A lot of it is donor-based. You can show them the roadmap. This is what we need to get it done. So again, that public-private partnership, we see that work well very often. All these projects I showed you too, these were all public-private partnerships. This was reaching out to the community, reaching out to donors. You know, here they had strong partnership with Nicolay High School, MSOE, for their baseball fields, and a wealth of community contributions for their community room, their amphitheater, etc. In Wapaka, the same thing. You know, they had some funds set aside, they had grant funds matching, and they had a very generous donation pool of many, many donors in that community come forward to make this project possible. So that phasing plan really gives you the document you need. You know, you have a nice master plan, a phased approach, phased costs. You can approach people with that and ask for those giving dollars as well. So it'll be a working document that we give you that's going to function as that tool to show people the vision. Yeah. Great. Any other questions or comments for this evening?
I know they saved for a long time to do both their new parks, but they also got grants and stuff, but that was another good thing that you could look into to see what Conroe got for grants.
Yeah, I'm not familiar with those, but we'll reach out to them and see what grants they applied for, and how they were successful doing that. So, you know, if you're familiar with that and they got 2 parks rolling with that, we'll definitely look into that.
They got Scott Park fixed and the other park got a pool.
Great, great. Yeah, we'll look at that. Thank you. Yeah, another comment.
When you update this stuff, does it usually lower maintenance costs and maintenance?
It can, because it's new facilities. You know, a lot of, especially with athletic facilities, any field facilities, natural turf especially, the more you use it, the more you have to put into it to maintain it. If it's being maintained.
I feel that the parks we have now, they haven't been able to keep up with it as they are, so if you had bigger parks,
Right.
they'll just lose they'll
Yeah.
go downhill.
So ideas like the new athletic fields, the splash pad, to answer your question, I think, yes, there are a lot of improvements you can make here to actually lower the effort and have more maintainable facilities, newer facilities that you can keep in front of. So yes and no, it really depends on how it shakes out and what amenities do end up here. But yes, I think new facilities can be a relief to help alleviate chasing problems or things that aren't working and free up maintenance time for other activities in the park. Yes?
I was just wanting to comment that I think as we all have our wish lists and all our things that we want to see there, we need to be thinking about who we can touch base with that has financial wherewithal to help us make this happen, because we're going to need a lot of it.
Thank you. Yeah, and that's that phasing plan and the cost and having the vision, knowing what to ask for it, but then also who, and that's with the support of the Community Foundation, and there's a lot of support here to be that arm to reach out to the community. So we need to provide them with the tools to be able to do that and to get the community what you feel would be best for improvement. So again, thank you. Any other questions, comments? Otherwise, I do want to thank everybody for your time this evening. I know your time's valuable, and this is going to go a long way in helping us develop good concepts that we can bring back to you. I look forward to that. John, any final comments? All right. Well, thanks, everybody. Have a great evening.